Well, we're at the halfway mark, halfway through the year, and what is going to happen in the United States, from the economy to the war against Russia, to the war in Gaza? Where are the United States and the American policymakers going to come down on a whole host of issues, and where are we headed? Let's ask the one person who knows, who looks at the trends more deeply than anybody does. That's Gerald Celente, of course, the founder, the chief bottle washer over at the Trends Journal. And Gerald, welcome back to the show. You know, we checked in with you at the beginning of the year to look at the big forecasts that you had at the Trends Journal for the whole year. And now we're halfway through this year, and I thought it'd be a good time to check back in with you. So welcome back into the show.
Well, thanks for having me. And, you know,
always good. Yeah.
You know, one of our top trends, I've been at this for 45 years. Never did we have a top trend called a wild card. And we have the trump card and the wild card. Anything goes now. You can't
every day
what's going to happen in a lot of ways.
It is crazy. I mean, every day it seems like, you know, within 48 hours things change on a dime. Even President Trump the other day took a question from a reporter, and he called it a nasty question when the reporter asked him, "So do you cave on tariffs when you get pushback? Is that, you know?" And he thought it was a nasty question. Like, do you sort of change with the wind on things? And he got really upset about that question. He doesn't like to be challenged like that. So, yeah, the unpredictability is back, and it seems like it's back in the markets. It's back in the U.S. dollar. It's back in the housing sector. It's back in a whole host of topics. So, where do you want to start, Gerald? I mean, we're here halfway through the year. What do you see unfolding for the rest of the year? I mean, I think I want to kind of, maybe we'll start with people's pocketbooks, you know, people's wallets, and what the economy looks like. That's what most families care about in the United States, being able to put food on the table. And you're in your latest journal talking about the U.S. dollar continuing to decline. So what do you see in the U.S. economy for the next 6 months?
You know, again, it's somewhat of a guessing game, but here's what we're forecasting. Again, because you don't know what Trump is going to do. And one of the important things is where are interest rates going to go? And everybody has to remember the facts. Let's go back to 2018, worst December for the Dow since the Great Depression, 1931. Trump forced Powell to lower interest rates, which Powell did in December of 2019, pushed the Dow up, 22% that year. So let's go back to now what's going on. You know, the big news is, NVIDIA's, sales went up and they're doing great. We see a dot-com bust coming. And here's why. Tracking trends is the understanding of where we are, how we got here, and where we're going. And trends are born, they grow, they mature, reach old age, and die. Let's go to the AI trend. It was only born 3 years ago, 2022. You don't invest all your money in the first companies that are big in the new investment of a new trend. And that's what they did. All these IPO wannabes, one after another, dumping money into the AI. And then let's just go back to January, which nobody talks about anymore. And DeepSeek comes out. Nobody ever heard of a DeepSeek before, but it's a Chinese company that comes out. NVIDIA's stock goes down 17%. They lose $600 billion in one day. And DeepSeek says, hey, we don't need these big chips that you're making. We could do it with smaller chips. Oh, and it didn't cost us $100 million to do this. It cost us $6 million. And now
Right.
DeepSeek is the most used AI in the world. Now let's go back. Trends are born, they grow, they mature, reach old age, and die. Again, the trend has just been born. You don't invest all your money in there. And in trend forecasting, you make connections between different fields. So let's see why China is going to be, like it or not, the world leader in AI. Before Slick Willie, Bill Clinton, put China into the World Trade Organization in 2000, they officially came in 2 weeks after 9/11. Go back to 2000. 10% of Chinese 18-year-olds went to college. Today, nearly 70%. Young people are totally AI high-tech addicted, and they're going to college to expand this thinking. They're going to lead the world in this development. As the United States is going down, less kids are going to college. They have 1.4 billion people. We have 347 million. So you use the numbers and you look at the facts. So we see a dot-com bust coming. Number two, nobody's talking about it. Let's go back before the COVID war. Google it up. What's your office vacancy rate in the United States? About 11%. What is it now? 20.4%. Double.
20 point. Holy smokes. Now, you've been, I want to give you credit, enormous credit on this. For the past year and a half on our show, when we've had you on, you've been focusing on this story when everyone else has been ignoring it. So thank you for that, which is the commercial real estate problem and all of these people who are not returning to the offices. And now these offices are just, you can't afford the leases, you can't afford the mortgages, so they're just going belly up. So you've been spot on. So now it's doubled?
It's doubled since the COVID war. And by the way, the damage that's been caused by these politicians that lock down the nations, it's incalculable. Not only in the United States, because you can go back to China. Look at their, again, before Bill Clinton brought him into the World Trade Organization, China's GDP was like this. They come in, whoop, shoots up when all the not all of it, load of the manufacturing from United States and Europe went over there to get cheap labor and gave China everything they never had in high tech and heavy industry technology. But anyway, they had a big housing boom. And with every boom, there's a bust. But they made a very bad bust much worse when they launched the COVID war on January 2020, on their Chinese Lunar New Year, the year of the rat. You have between 60 to 90 million, depending on whose numbers you look at, vacant apartments in China. Some 30% of China's GDP was real estate related. They locked down the place for 3 years with zero COVID policy. They destroyed the lives and livelihoods of hundreds of millions. So they got their big problems too. What I'm saying, going back, we're talking about the office building bust. The damage that has been caused by the COVID war is incalculable. Like where I am up here in the Hudson Valley, I call it Death Valley. 9 o'clock, everything empty. Restaurants that used to serve at 10 o'clock at night, they're only serving at 9 o'clock. Look, you're a New York City guy. I'm a New York City guy. I mean, you know what the scene was. You're going out 1 o'clock in the morning, the places are packed. Now, every time I go down to the city, I ask a cab driver, when's it slowing down? 12:30 at night.
And it's supposed to be the city that never sleeps. I mean, when I used to come into Fox News Channel, at 2, 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning to take a car into the city, or, just from my apartment on the Upper West Side, I mean, there'd be people out all night. It was the city that never sleeps. Now it's sleeping. So going back, the leases that you have in commercial real estate, they're like 5 and 10-year leases. So the COVID war began 5 years ago. Now these leases are all coming up and they're not being renewed. There's going to be, let's go back to 2023. 3 banks fail: Signature, Silicon Valley, and First Republic. Boom, markets will go way down, gold prices go way up. That was 3 banks. Right.
You're going to see a load of banks go under. This is serious and no one's talking about it. Again, the whole life has changed. So those are the 2 things we're looking at that's going to affect the equity. The 3. The other thing, again, when interest rates go down, the dollar, talking about the dollar is going to go down more. Much of the world has had enough of the United States geopolitical and economic hegemony, and they're getting away from the buck. The BRICS are going to be the future in a lot of ways. Again, you follow the money, and the money's following away from the United States. So there's going to be the death of the dollar.
Death of the U.S. dollar. And as I mentioned, you have J.D. Vance at the Bitcoin conference and Eric Trump, talking about owning Bitcoin and that the future is in crypto. It's in gold. It's in silver. It's away from these government currencies. As I've said for a long period of time here on the show, every government currency in world history has collapsed, all of them. What makes you think that the U.S. dollar won't also collapse? Like this is going to be the one currency that survives? Every currency in world history has collapsed. The U.S. dollar, we had Representative Thomas Massey on the show last week.
He's
And I
great.
said, we're $36 trillion in debt. And he said, Clayton, he said, that's 36 trillion, what we see right now. He said, you add on it's about another 20 trillion on top of that. That's really where we are. The U.S. dollar is collapsing in real time. We're watching it happening. So do you see, an accelerated pace for the U.S. dollar, the sell-offs, these countries dumping U.S. treasuries in a much larger capacity? The U.S. dollar is a reserve currency of the world collapsing this year, or will it take a few
I don't know
years?
if it'll happen this year. I think it's going to, it's going to keep decelerating the dollar value. But again, and that's very important too, because gold is dollar based. So the deeper the dollar falls, the higher gold prices rise because it's cheaper to buy gold from in other countries to buy it. And going back to Vance, let's go back to Trump. You remember when Trump came out against Bitcoin, said it was destroying the dollar? Oh, that was only a couple of years ago. We won't talk about that. How he was so anti-Bitcoin, but now his family's into it. Again, we're writing the articles in the Trends Journal week after week. How they again, we said in the Trends Journal that Bitcoin and other cryptos are going to go way up because Trump got $100 million plus from the crypto club when he was running for president and during his inauguration. We said these coins are going to go way up, and now his family is into it. What, the Lutnick guys, kids are into it. Witkoff's kids are into it. The Commerce Secretary, the guy that's our guy over there in Middle East concerns, whatever his title is, Witkoff. The whole club is into this thing. So again, and here's the other thing that's going to happen. We're all going to go, we've been writing about this. What they're going to say, we're getting rid of this dirty cash and we're going to digital. So it's dirty cash to digital trash. There's going to be central bank digital currencies. It's the future of the world. Going back to, again, to AI. Go to China. The people aren't using cash or anything anymore. Put out your palm. That's enough. Boop. Everything's going to go digital. And here's the deal. We came up with a new digital coin. And the value of it is blah, 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 blah. And we're going to get rid of our debt level because this coin is worth so much. They're going to make up any crap that they want. And by the way, Thomas Massey's probably the only person in the government that I really respect.
Yeah.
And I was a speaker at one of Ron Paul's events, and he was one of the speakers there too. He's a real deal. And he said it's $20 trillion more, the debt level. Other people are bringing it up to 100 billion plus, because when you put in Social Security, government debt, and other things, it's much, much higher that they have to pay out. There's no way in the world. They're gonna do away with the dollar. They're gonna come up with a digital coin and replace it. It's in front of everybody's eyes. They're doing it.
Well, we've seen, and this is what I've been seeing, and I'm not a trends forecaster, but I certainly been paying attention to what's been happening with these stable coins. And so the US dollar as a reserve currency has been declining very, very quickly as the rise of the BRICS nations have been increasing. They've been dumping the US dollar, US treasuries, and they've been moving away from that to settle transactions. However, with the rise of stable coins, USDC, which is backed by the US dollar, in many ways, this is sort of an end around the US dollar as a reserve currency, and it kind of forces these countries and forces crypto blockchain holders and others to be using the US dollar, but in stable coin fashion. So they're moving us to this digital future, but in a different way, away from the US dollar in the way that we think of it, but now backing a lot of this sort of crypto stable coins where they'll be able to track everything. They'll be able to use us, So that's what this is. It's all about tracking. It's all about control, isn't it not?
Oh, yeah, you nailed it perfectly. And one other thing, tracking, control. They know every penny you spent, where you spent it, what you spent it on. They know everything about you. And most importantly, they steal your money in the name of taxes.
Right.
They know every penny you spent. They know everything about you. These are politicians, low-life pieces of crap that suck off the public tit their whole lives and can't get a job in the real world, most of them, and want to just keep doing it. So that's the deal.
That's right. Let's talk about wars. So we got the U.S. economy, dot-com bust coming, the decline of the U.S. dollar, and a housing crisis that's been unfolding, and you've been nailing that. Now it's double where it was during the COVID era. That's only going to get worse. Now let's talk about these wars. It seems like things are getting much worse with Russia. We thought maybe we were moving towards peace there, but it seems to be spiraling out of control. And Russia has basically laid out its terms for peace, which is exactly the same position that they had back in 2022. Like, you're not joining NATO. You're not expanding further towards our doorstep. We are not going to have, these weapons supplied inside of Ukraine to be targeting our country. And you'll stop to carry out this genocide against ethnic Russians in what was Eastern Ukraine. So basically the same terms. It's exactly where we are, but now it's spiraling out of control. We have the rise of Germany sending additional weapons, wanting to militarize itself. So, I mean, are we heading towards World War III?
The cover of the Trends Journal magazine, and by the way, if you go to what's that? The thing you have the link.
Yeah, we'll have a link in the description. So, and you guys have a special link because you guys publish the Trends Journal every week. So if you want to go to redacted.inc/trends, we'll have the link in our description. I think you guys have provided a link for 10% off for our audience. So sign up for it. We have a lot of our viewers that are Trends Journal subscribers. So we'll have a link in the description of this video for people to go there.
Which brings it, by the way, the grand total of $2.50 a week. Here, this is the cover. This is the front page of the New York Times business section, weekend edition. $6. Look at this stupid picture. No, once upon a time, there was print and stories, nothing. Journalism is totally dead. Yeah, nothing. Anyway, so we're giving the people everything we can to history before it happens, and going back to the Ukraine war and what you're talking about, the genocide that was being committed by Ukraine, bombing the people in the Donbas region, killing over 15,000 of them. The people have no clue about this. When I was a kid, they taught us to hate Russia. They had us hiding under a desk in case a nuclear bomb went off. As a little kid, I was scared to death every time I saw an airplane. Like hiding under a desk, by the way, that was going to save your life, right? Here,
right.
This is the Trends Journal magazine. When it was a quarterly, by the way, now it's a weekly, back in 2014. Look how happy that guy is, right? Here's the story. Washington is driving the world to the final war. World hegemony is not a right America has earned. This is by Dr. Paul Craig Roberts, former Assistant Treasury Secretary under Ronald Reagan, wrote this article. I'm just going to read a short part of it. Washington concluded that Russia needed to be confronted with or distracted by problems that would leave Russian government less confident or able to counter Washington's aggression elsewhere. Ukraine presented the perfect opportunity for Washington to advance its hegemonic agenda. In a speech at the National Press Club last December, which was 2013, Assistant Secretary of State Victoria Nuland boasted that Washington had invested $5 billion in non-governmental organizations in Ukraine to, quote, teach democracy. The United States overthrew the democratically elected government of Viktor Yanukovych in Ukraine in 2014. People have no idea about this. None at all. So going back, Germany is now escalating the war. There are $1 trillion. They're taking out $1 trillion to build up their military. Germany's the third largest economy in the world, largest in Europe. It's been in recession for 2 years and entering into recession, and you're borrowing $1 trillion. Oh, yeah, we're going to build the infrastructure up too so the tanks could go over the bridges. Wait a minute. You do it. Oh, one country after another. That little clown Carney boy up there, that jerk up there. You got rid of Trudeau up in Canada. Now you got another jerk up there. Carney, he's bragging. Carney's military spending, you ready? Will add up to $64 billion to the economy. One after another, and they're all using the line that it's going to build up their gross domestic product and their economy. No, it won't. Products that are made for military only enrich the military industrial complex. And by the way, you read Merz over there, Friedrich Merz, the new chancellor, the former BlackRock guy, he keeps calling it money going into the military industrial complex. He uses those words. GDPs grow when the products that are made are bought by consumers. That's what drives it up. This only goes into the pockets of the military industrial complex. Oh, that President Dwight D. Eisenhower, 5-star general, supreme commander of the Allied forces, and 2-term president, said, the military industrial complex is robbing the nation of the genius of scientists, sweat of the laborers, and the future of the children. And now you got these clown boys with little peckers that couldn't fight their way out of a paper bag, sending the bullshit out that spending this money for the military is going to build our economy? Yeah, Heil Merz. Oh, these are the Germans that killed over 25 million Russians in Operation Barbarossa in World War II. Oh, these are the Germans that, not me, the guy by the name of John F. Kennedy, it used to be a president giving a speech. Anybody look it up. American University, 1963, June. All about peace. He said, no nation suffered more during World War II than the people in the Soviet Union. They lost their farms, their factories, their homes, the equivalent of Chicago to the East Coast. He said over 20 million of them were killed. And now the numbers are over 25 million. Operation Barbarossa, launched by Hitler. And I got this little slime ball, Merz, if we don't stop those Russians, they are going to take over Europe. Oh, yeah, I grew up during the Vietnam War. I heard that same crap, fat mouth. If we don't stop those Vietnamese, those commies, they're going to take over all of Asia, and those dominoes will keep falling, and they'll hit the shores of California. Oh, by the way, the same communist country, Vietnam, that's our second largest importer of clothing, shoes, and furniture. In other words, they could care less about it, who's running what, as long as they can make money.
It's madness. Yeah, it's absolute madness when you look at what Carney's doing with the expansion of the military in Canada, this idea of moving to a war footing. And they're trying to scare us that Russia is going to invade Europe. I know people paying attention to Russia has no intentions of that. They're massive amounts of land that Putin can, that Putin can barely control as it is. Do you think they want to add Germany to their governing mix? It's insane. It's absolute madness. But, that's how they scare people. And people believe it. That's the sad part is that, Gerald, people buy into this propaganda. They believe it because they watch things like CNN, or they read all of these garbage publications across the world, or they watch like Sky News or any of these things. So they believe that Putin's coming for them.
Yep. Again, people have no idea about, again, the overthrow of the democratically elected government. Again, this is the magazine from 2014. I want to make this really clear to show you how they use the propaganda to get you. Here, you see this photo there of this is during the lead up to the Winter Olympics in Russia, in Sochi in 2014. This is just before the overthrow, how the mainstream media taught the people to fear the Russians. You ready? Security expert, it's not if, but when, for Sochi Olympics terror attack. They kept telling the people not to go to the Sochi Olympics because there was going to be a terror attack. I'm just going to read a quick part of this. Veteran security consultant Bill Rathbone hopes that he's wrong about the upcoming Winter Olympics in Russia, but he has more than a hunch that he's not. Quote, the security threat is higher than it's ever been in the history of the Olympics, Rathbone told Yahoo News. In my opinion, it's not a matter of whether there will be some incident. It's just a matter of how bad it's going to be. They scared the hell out of the people to hate the Russians, that there was going to be a terror attack at the Sochi Olympics. There was going to be don't drink the yellow water, homophobes, on and on and on. And then they overthrew the government. So what I'm saying is they teach the people to hate the country, and then they do what they want. And by the way, I launched Occupy Peace over a decade ago. I'm for peace. And I read George Washington's farewell address. This is a real man that fought, that became president, not like these little peckers that couldn't fight their way out of a paper bag. And what does he say?
Right.
He said
non-interventionism. And now it became such a bad thing, this idea that we should not be involved in foreign wars. This idea that somehow non-interventionism or isolationism is now a bad word. And here George Washington was in his farewell address telling us that we should be isolationists and non-interventionists and, be peaceful.
Yeah, and he said, basically, this crap's been going on for centuries and we're not going to fix it.
Yeah.
Again, when you're looking at what's going on what was Crimea? Wasn't Crimea part of Russia for a long time? Or was it Ukraine and Russia? But Kremlin, Khrushchev did this, or what's on and that? Catherine the Great back in. This stuff has been going on forever. Oh, and how about these words that they used to have? Again, World War II. Google it up. Franklin Roosevelt seizes all Japanese assets. Oh, by the way, I talked about Kennedy in June of 1963, speaking to the students at graduating American University. It was all about peace. He said, we should not go to war against the Soviet Union, because if we do, it'll be an atomic nuclear war and life on Earth will be destroyed in 24 hours. His words. That was back then. What happens June, July, August, September, October, November? Jack, you're dead. They killed him. He was for peace. So going back to what's going on with people all they have taught us is to hate him, just like they taught us to hate Iran. When the Iranian conflict broke out in 1978, 79, when they overthrew the Shah. Oh, people have no idea how the United States, the CIA, and the MI6 overthrew the democratically elected government of Mossadegh in Iran in 1953, because he had the nerve to say that oil does not belong to Anglo-Iranian oil, better known today as BP, or Standard Oil, better known today as ExxonMobil. It belongs to the Iranian people. No, it doesn't. And they overthrew the government. But the American people, and that's how I became a trend forecaster, by the way. It was one of my books, Trend Tracking. It's a lot better than Megatrends, Time Magazine. I write about how I started investing in gold and oil futures when that started to happen. And I became a political atheist because people had no idea of what was going on over there. All they do is taught us to hate the Iranians. And I said, no, they're going to overthrow the Shah. People forgot about the Savak, the secret police under the Shah, that made the SS look good. I mean, the people hated the guy. He was a dictator. So anyway, the same thing is going on now. When all else fails, they take you to war, and the economies around the world are failing. Let's go back to what's going on with the genocide war over there in Israel. 39 weeks of judicial protests were going on before Hamas attacked on October 7th, 2023. 39 weeks, not my language, the language of Isaac Herzog, the president of Israel, because of Netanyahu wanted to pass a Judicial Reform Act that said basically, they're going to bring me up on charges, but I'm going to pass this Judicial Reform Act and you're not going to do anything to me. We're doing away with the judiciary and the politicians will be in charge. Is basically the Judicial Reform Act. 39 weeks of protests. And Isaac Herzog said, quote, there's a civil war going on in Israel. Hamas attacks, all forgotten about. All forgotten. Right. And, oh, by the way, we only put facts in. And the United States and Egypt, 3 days later, it was reported in Haaretz and other Israeli newspapers that the United States and Egypt had warned Netanyahu that this attack was going to happen.
Right.
And all the information's coming out saying that they knew it was going to happen, which is going back to what I was going to say about World War II. Anybody could Google it up. The Great Depression was going on. Franklin Roosevelt seizes all Japanese assets in the United States on July 26th, 1941. You know why? Those dirty Japanese invaded French Indochina. French Indochina, what the hell are the French doing in Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos? We're stealing their rubber, their tin, rape, pillaging. Oh, the sun never sets on the British Empire. Oh, you're robbing and stealing all over the world. So what I'm saying is, going back to what Washington was saying, this crap's been going on forever. You got crazy people running the world. And look what just happened up in Canada. Just see that little clown dressed up in his costume with all the little medals on? The King of England. What king? Royal family? If you were an Italian, they'd call you a mafia. You lousy bastards have killed people all over the world. Royal family dressed up in his little drag costume with the little crown and it. And they roll out the red carpets and everybody salutes. And they're all, oh, by the way, talking about going back to Mertz, meeting with Zelensky. Did you see the picture of him and Zelensky over there with all those red carpets and all those little boys dressed up in their drag costumes saluting? They're getting us into war. And if people don't do something to stop it, it's going to be the end of life on Earth. Putting the money into all this military equipment's a wasted dough. It'll be nuclear annihilation. And by the way, Russia's warned it. They said, if you attack us, we're going nuclear. They said it.
Well, it's an existential threat to them, right? I mean, the whole world is sneaking up on their doorstep. NATO is sneaking right up on their doorstep through Finland, through Ukraine.
Yep.
Through the massive mobilization in Europe. What would we do in the United States if suddenly Russia was on our, had taken over Canada, sitting on our Canadian border, on our Mexican border, had submarines and nuclear warships sitting in the Gulf of Mexico, Gulf of America? We would absolutely say we would use nuclear weapons to defend ourselves.
Yep.
It's an existential threat to their country. And they're united. I mean, we've covered this on the show. Russians are united.
Yep.
Putin has massive internal support. They know what they stand for. The Russian people know what their values are, and they know what they stand for, and they're not going to be bullied and pushed around. They've had enough of this sort of Western pushing around, being lied to about NATO expansion, being duped multiple times by Bill Clinton telling them that NATO wouldn't expand to their doorstep and then doing exactly that. They have no reason to trust us anymore.
Again, go back to the agreement that happened with Gorbachev and Bush Sr. NATO will not move 1 inch further. That was the quote. There were, 16 NATO countries back then? Now there were 32. And you mentioned, suppose China or Russia was in the Gulf of America or up in, here. Let's go back to the Vietnam War, which I grew up during. I'm the same age as Trump. The they attacked an American ship in the Gulf of Tonkin. What the hell are we doing over
massive false flag. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Matter of fact, I wrote about that. And this is a best-selling book, one of my books, Trends 2000, how McNamara, the defense secretary, lied about that and made up the whole thing about the Vietnam War. And again, what the hell are we doing over there? Oh, it's okay. We could be there. We could be anywhere we want. Hey, yeah, but how about if they're down here? Well, no, they're not allowed to be down here. Don't you know who we are? And it's disgusting. And again, Trump, I'm the same age as Trump. Trump got 4 or 5 draft deferments. He finally got out with a bone spur. It's just like that little clown boy Biden, same thing. These little warmongering freaks, Bill Clinton, one after another. They love war, but they don't go fight. I say anybody that supports a war overseas, go over there, send your money, your wife, your kids, your transgenders, go get dressed up in a drag, go fight or shut your mouth. Every one of these little slimeball politicians, go over there and fight what you believe in or shut up.
Oh,
did you see this little clown boy, this Randy Fine, over in
Florida?
That we should nuke Gaza?
Yeah. Brilliant. Yeah, let's drop a nuclear weapon on Gaza. That would because you haven't brought enough destruction and death and the killing of civilians. Maybe that'll finally. It's not enough to use bunker busting bombs to go after Hamas tunnels. No, you need to use nuclear weapons. Let's do that.
Yep.
Let's wipe off the entire Middle East while you're at it. And it's these people have no idea what they're playing with. We are vehemently an anti-war show. We are a pro-peace show, and I just don't understand the madness. I think it's I've been really contemplating a lot of this lately. I really think it's like it's a soulless sort of Satanism that's taken over. Because I don't know how you could sit there in public, go on television and say we should drop drop a nuclear bomb, like that. Those words would come out of your mouth, and that you would think that that's okay, and you could just go on Fox News and just say that, Randy Fine. I think it's demonic. I really think these people are controlled by some really dark forces. To me, it's like a spiritual battle at this point.
As I said to you, if the royal family was Italian, they'd call them a mafia. They're crime syndicates. These are evil, narcissistic people. By their deeds, you shall know them. If they were, thieves or murderers, in a neighborhood, you don't ask them why they're crazy or thieves. These are evil people running the world.
Yeah. And
it's that kind of, again, an Eisenhower quote. He said, any man seeking you can look it up. Any man seeking the office of president is either crazy or an egomaniac.
Right.
And again, going back to what was saying before, what Roosevelt did, and anybody could look it up, he seized all Japanese assets because, and this is, I said, when all else fails, they take it to war. The Great Depression was going on because the Japanese were going into French Indochina. Oh, and then the UK and the Dutch East Indies, what the hell are the Dutch doing in Indonesia? The three of them, UK, Dutch, and America, cut off 3/4 of Japanese trade as a result of that. And you ready? 88% of their imported oil. Japan imports 100% of their oil. Can't understand why they bombed Pearl Harbor 6 months later.
Yeah, it's a mystery.
Yeah. Again, I didn't know this until about 4 years ago. Again, Google up Franklin Roosevelt seizes Japanese assets, comes out of History Today, mainstream. Yeah. I didn't know this.
No, I think a lot of people didn't know about Pearl Harbor. I think people's minds would be blown to think that, oh, it wasn't a surprise attack. We knew it was coming. Yeah. We knew days ahead of time that this was coming, that the attack on Pearl Harbor was happening. There was a reason we didn't move ships out of there. We moved a few, but we purposefully kept ships there to be sitting ducks and be targeted. It's a perfect catalyst. It's just like October 7th, they knew it was coming. It's a perfect catalyst to then launch a massive military campaign to further your interests. So October 7th was absolutely a gift to Netanyahu, and he knew it was coming. And it was like, it was like a Christmas present. It was like a Hanukkah present to Netanyahu. Same thing with
absolutely.
FDR.
Absolutely. Again, what you're talking about, people don't know, have no idea at all. No idea at all.
They also don't know that FDR purposefully only focused on Hawaii, but didn't mention in his address at all the Philippines and the other islands that were attacked. There's a specific reason that was left out of his address when he famously said, "We have nothing to fear but fear itself." Didn't even really talk about, I think, 3 or 4 different targets that the Japanese had hit that day. It was all part of a plan. You focus on Hawaii because if you dilute that message to the American people, they're not going to rally around you and want to go to war. So ignoring the Philippines, ignoring, I think, American Samoa and a couple of other targets on that particular day. Forgive me for not hitting those exact names of those islands, but it wasn't just Hawaii that was hit. But, that's what FDR focused on, to rally the American people around that cause. So you can't dilute that message when you're trying to build up a case for war, right?
Yeah, no, what you're saying, people have no idea about. And it's so sad. As I say, when all else fails, they take you to war. Hey, what followed the .com bust? Oh, the war on terror.
The war in Iraq. Yeah, you're right. So now we're facing another .com bust, according to you. And
.com bust 2.0.
And we'll head to war.
Look at Trump. He sold himself as a peace candidate. And look, we're going to annihilate the people in Yemen, he comes out and says later. And hey, you elect me, I'm going to end that Ukraine war in 24 hours, all right? Hey, now that I'm in office, I'm going to end that war before I get into office, all right? I mean, you can't make this stuff up. I mean, it's one after another. This is the people that get into politics. They're either egomaniacs or crazy.
Oh, I love that. I would love to be able to ask J.D. Vance that question if he runs for president. So J.D., President Eisenhower said that you're either crazy or an egomaniac if you want to run for president. What are you, crazy or an egomaniac? Be a great question. Gerald, great to see you. You're not crazy and you're not an egomaniac. And you hold truth to power. We love having you on. We love your forecasts. For people who want to take advantage of it and subscribe to the Trends Journal, we'll have a link in the description below. It publishes once a week. Very inexpensive when you compare it to like the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times or anything. I read it every week. I love it. And we'll have a link in the description. I think it's redacted.inc/trends for people to subscribe. Gerald, any final thoughts, any final words as we head into the end of 2025?
Yeah, we're still very bullish on gold. One of our top trends in 2024 was a golden year for gold. Back then, gold was selling for a little over $2,000 an ounce. And now
exploded. Yeah.
And it's going to keep going up. We see essentially could well hit $4,000 an ounce now. And again, the deeper the dollar falls, the higher gold prices go. And the death of the dollar has begun. It's only going to come. And by the way, the United States did what our founding fathers fought against, the country called the UK. The British pound died because of all the wars that they kept fighting. And then after World War I, that was the end of the pound and the dollar came in. The United States became that country with all the wars that we keep fighting. What are they putting, $1 trillion into the defense budget as our infrastructure is rotting in front of our eyes? Look at the potholes in the roads everywhere, the bridges. The subway in New York is a night in Calcutta. Amtrak, how about Amcrap? Look at the joke this is. So what we're saying is that they're going to do everything they can to artificially prop up the economy. And they're going to keep doing everything they can to lower interest rates. It's going to happen. Trump did it before, he'll do it again. The lower interest rates fall, The deeper the dollar falls, the higher gold prices go. And by the way, if there weren't these cryptocurrencies, gold prices would probably be double what they are now. And we've been bullish on Bitcoin since 2017. And we said when Trump got into office, this thing, like, it's right there. We said the prices are going to rocket up. They're up some 50% Bitcoin from where it was before Trump got elected.
Yeah. And it's going to continue to go higher.
Yep.
Gerald, great to see you. Always great to have you here on the show. Again, we'll have a link in the description. Subscribe to the Trends Journal. Thank you so much for everything you do, Gerald, and being a voice for peace. Very few voices like yours out there pushing for peace, ending these wars. So thank you for that. Thanks, Gerald.
And thank you so much for you two, the people that you have on and what you're doing. I mean, it's one of a kind. And I'm so honored to be on with you. So thank you so much for what you're doing. And everybody, here's the deal. Get in the best shape you can, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, because you're in the fight for your life. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Gerald.